Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to introduce to you differential calculus and how we can use it to help us solve motion problems. So let's consider an example of an object moving, and this object's going to be moving at constant speed. If we make a graph of its position over time, we find a graph that looks something like this. So because it's got a constant slope, we know that the speed of the object is constant. So if we want to find the velocity in this case, it's very easy. All we do is we just take the gradient of this line, which we can just find the rise over the run. And in this particular example, if we were to have a look at the equation for how does the position relate to the time, there's a well-known formula that we can use. The position, or the displacement, is equal to the velocity multiplied by the time. So in this particular case, since time is on the x-axis and x, displacement, is on the y-axis, then the gradient is just the velocity here, v. But the question is, what happens if we look at a different motion? For example, let's suppose that we were going to look at something where the velocity was not constant, it was changing. So an object that is speeding up. It might look something like this. Now I've tried my best to draw a parabola here. So what that means is if we're thinking about how does x depend on t, well x would be some constant multiplied by t squared. I've chosen k to be the constant here. Now if I ask what is the velocity of this object, well the answer is that it's changing. At different points in time it would have different velocities. The way that we can find the velocity is to look at what is the gradient at any point in time. But the gradient is changing over time. So for example, early on, if we have a look at this point here, we could draw a tangent line that looks like this, and that would be our velocity. But at some time later, it would look like this. So our velocity has changed. So how could we determine what our velocity is in this case? Well, what we need to do is we need to try and find what is the gradient of these tangents. Now we can find our average velocity across the motion. The way that we could find our velocity across the motion is we could use the formula above, where we have x is equal to vt, and we just pick the initial point and the starting point. We could find our total displacement and our total time. And that would allow us to find our average velocity. However, if we want to know the velocity at any given moment, we need to invoke a new type of calculation or a new way of solving equations, and this is called calculus. And in particular, the process that we're going to learn about to solve this problem is called differentiation. So differentiation will allow us to find the gradient of a particular line even when it is curved.